Hey guys, this is the DreamItAlive show. I am your host, Ash Kumra, co-founder of DreamItAlive.com. Today is a special episode. We have been getting a lot of requests from many of our entrepreneurs and other listeners on what does it take to get funding and what does it take to meet that dream investor, that person or like agent of change that could really grow your business and help you take it to the next level. So today's guest is someone who has a lot of experience as an investor. His name is Phil Nadel. He is currently the co-founder of the Barbara Corcoran Venture Group, and he himself has done a lot of investments outside of that too. And so Phil's perspective on what it takes to get an investor, especially what it takes to work with a celebrity investor like Barbara, would be kind of interesting for a lot of interested listeners. So Phil, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Ash.
So Phil, why don't you tell us a little about your background, how'd you got started as an investor?
Sure. I've been in the finance business. That's how I got my start. I've been in the finance business for about 25 years, and all types of finance, from asset-based lending to factoring and all kinds of other things. But over the years, while pursuing various finance businesses, I've also started many other businesses, especially in the online space. I had a couple of online advertising companies, and so over the years, as I've started businesses of my own, I've become very interested in early stage or angel investing. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I started making a few angel investments here and there, and about 2.5 or 3 years ago, I really started doing it in a more serious way. And making a lot more angel investments, and that's something that I pursue full time now. And I've done about 45 or 50 different investments at this stage, but they're all relatively recent in the last couple of years, with most of them being in the last year. And about 9 or 10 months ago, beginning of this year, I partnered with Barbara Corcoran, and we formed Barbara Corcoran Venture Partners, and that is an investment syndicate that we have through AngelList. So that has expanded our angel investing activities even more.
How would you say working with, let's say, a celebrity investor like Barbara is different than, let's say, getting a traditional angel investors? Is there any difference in what you get or terms or anything like that?
Yeah, actually there are a lot of differences. I mean, first, there are a lot of companies who want to work with us as investors, who want us to invest because they want to be associated with Barbara and have her name be associated with them as an investor. So there are certain types of companies who can benefit from having her involved. She has a lot of followers in social media. She gets a lot of press attention, and as a result, she can generate a lot of interest in a company. And when she invests in a company, she'll spend a little time and she'll tweet about them, or she'll make some introductions to them. I can't say that she spends a lot of time with each of the portfolio companies because we have several. But when they need a key introduction, when they need some social media exposure, these are things that can help. And also, when an entrepreneur is in the midst of a fundraising round, if they can point to notable investors in their round, it will help to bring additional investors on board. So if they can say, hey, Barbara Corcoran is investing and she's syndicating our deal, so it passed muster with her, maybe you should reconsider. So that's another benefit, is that it makes other investors feel more comfortable to have that validation.
So outside of Barbara, just pretend pretend this is just more of a general theme. Would you say that people who are looking for angel investment should always strive to get one or two celebrity investors?
No, I certainly don't recommend striving to get celebrity investors, because that can be very time consuming and low odds, I would say. I do think it's important to try to get what I would refer to as notable investors, experienced investors, those who've made several angel investments, early stage investments already. So having a celebrity investor, I don't think is critically important. It can be helpful, but I wouldn't spend a disproportionate amount of time pursuing them versus other experienced or even strategic investors. So depending on the business that you're in, that can be any one of a variety of different types of investors. But I think it's great to pursue celebrity investors, but not at the expense of pursuing others as well.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Well, let's go down to general angel investing 101 advice. What are the traits you have seen for successful angel investment rounds? And for very specific purposes, let's say pre-Series A, which for those who don't know is like venture capital money, under $1 million. What have you seen as either yourself saying, I'm willing to invest, or Barbara's willing to invest, or other ventures that you've either invested in or you've seen others work?
Sure. Well, it's interesting that most of the deals that we've done, we've been able to make a fast decision on investing. We'll make a decision subject to due diligence, but we can make a relatively fast decision. The ones that seem to take a long time with a lot of back and forth are the ones we end up passing on. And so the lesson there, I think, is to try to simplify what you're doing. Try to simplify your business and your model as much as possible in your presentation to an investor, in your investor deck, in your business plan. Try to simplify as much as possible. Some businesses obviously are easier to simplify than others. Some are more complicated. But you want to keep it simple and always remember that the investor is not nearly as familiar with your company, your space, your product or service as you are. And so you really want to start from scratch, and you should be walking them through like a story about your company, about how you got started, and make it simple. Another thing that I would suggest is we see a lot of founders who overvalue their startup, and they turn investors off very early on by putting too high of a valuation, or if it's a convertible note, a cap on their company. And I think it's important, critically important at this stage to bring investors on, and it's less important to be hung up on the difference, small differences between valuations. So that can be a real turnoff when you have a company doing very little in revenue with not enough traction, and they're looking for a huge valuation. So I would caution against getting too concerned about that.
Okay, that's cool to hear. Well, just getting down to the nuts and bolts, what would you say the most common investment terms would be done? I've heard convertible notes. I've heard, go high with a valuation, but then be willing to barter it down to, up to a third of half of whatever it is. I mean, I'm just seeing what I've seen on shows like Shark Tank and even just talking to angel investors. Are those things that you guys are seeing too?
Well, the most common terms for early stage companies are convertible notes. They're the easiest to work with. They give the investor a lot of flexibility, and there's a lot less lawyer involvement, a lot less wrangling about the terms. It's pretty standard stuff, and I highly recommend going with the convertible note. I think early stage companies who try to go with a priced round and an equity round sometimes do so too early, and I think it's better for everyone to do a convertible note. Depending on the stage of the company, you can see anywhere from a $2 to a $5 million cap on conversion. It could be higher, but that's early stage, and 15 or 20% discount is common as well. So that's that's sort of the typical, or the more typical, I would say, is a convertible note structure. You also see a few other types of documents used, but again, I highly recommend going the convertible note. It's simpler, it's easier, and it's sort of become industry standard at this stage anyway.
Okay. No, that's very helpful. What are your thoughts on? I mean, I know you guys pretty much work with AngelList for your syndication. What's your thoughts on AngelList? Now, when you answer this question, if you don't mind, share on why it's beneficial for entrepreneurs to be using AngelList, or if you use other sites or platforms too, please share those too.
Sure. Well, the reason we use AngelList and we work with them is it's really a great platform. There are so many qualified, accredited investors who participate regularly on AngelList that it's become almost the de facto standard in the industry. It's not. They're the leading platform. There are certainly others that are good, but and I do work with other companies as well, but my preference is AngelList, just because I find that the presentation and the process is very clear and simple, but also I think the main thing is that there are just so many accredited quality investors on there from around the world. And so that's why we chose AngelList to establish our syndicate. And so we have many investors who back us in our syndicate, and when we syndicate a deal through our AngelList syndicate, it works out very well for the companies, and it happens quickly because there are so many investors on the platform. And I'll point out, though, that an important thing with any platform, AngelList or any of the others, is to make sure that you really focus on the profile page or pages that you build out for your company. So those are the pages where you'll put up all the information about the company, links to your deck and to other data, background information on the principals, all the information. But this is really where the investors will make a decision to delve further or to pass. And I often will spend a lot of time working with our portfolio companies before we fund them to help them with their profile pages, because oftentimes they need a lot of work. And so I encourage founders to really focus on those pages and build in as much information as you can, provide as much data as you can to make it helpful for the investors.
Okay, cool. Well, let's dive into the last half of this interview on what are trends, macro trends in the investment world that excite you. Again, angel investment and related. What are some industries or some types of businesses that you feel or that you guys are actively involved with?
Well, let me address the second part first.
Yeah.
So we look at a variety of businesses. I would say that generally we try to avoid companies with products or services that require a whole lot of research and development that are difficult to sort of wrap your arms around. You can't really get a clear understanding. Very, very high tech that it makes it difficult to understand. We target almost exclusively post-revenue companies. So there are a lot of companies out there that are pre-revenue. They're building out. They're in beta. They're testing or bringing on users in a freemium type model. Whatever the case may be, they're pre-revenue. For me, the litmus test as to whether I want to invest or not is some proof of market acceptance on a paid model. I want to see some revenue. It doesn't have to be a lot. Ideally, it should be increasing month to month at a good rate. But I like to see revenue, and we try to avoid companies that require very, very large investments and will require further large investments. So I want to be able to invest I want to be able to see that the company on $1 million, $2 million, whatever they're raising in this first round, will be able to show significant traction before having to seek further funding. That's important. So the ability to scale and to leverage without huge capital investment for us is important. We tend to prefer platform type of companies that offer a platform for various types of transactions, and we've done quite well with those and found that they can scale very quickly if they're in the right niche and have the right product. So that's something that we focus on. But to the first part of your question about macro trends in the space, the good news is that we've seen a lot more companies looking for funding and who are showing good early traction, success. As angel investing becomes more and more popular and word is spreading, more companies are being encouraged to seek it. So the breadth of companies that I'm looking at is staggering, and it's great for both the investors and for the founders. There's more capital out there and more companies to choose from, and so hopefully there's a lot of good matchmaking going on. One sort of danger signal as a result is rising valuations, especially in Series A and Series B deals. I think some of the valuations are getting ahead of where they should be, and that's largely due to competition from investors. And so I think we need to sort of be careful of that, and we don't want to go into a bubble kind of scenario where all of a sudden the valuations go crazy and then they pop and come down dramatically. I don't want to see that happen. I don't think that's good for the industry. So, just a cautionary note there.
That's awesome. Well, no, I appreciate that advice. Last question I have, and this is actually, we had pre-screened some questions from the audience earlier before this interview started through our social media feed. If you were pitching to you and Barbara, and you were told that you had to master one thing, what would that be?
If I, as the entrepreneur, as the founder, had to master one thing in my company or my pitch?
Your pitch. You have one shot. That elevator pitch story. Like you have that elevator pitch, and you and Barbara are sitting there, and you're looking at the entrepreneur, and that entrepreneur has been told, look, if you can answer this one thing, there's a likely chance all the other things are gravy. What is the one most important thing?
The overarching question that every angel investor wants to know is, prove to me in a convincible, clear way how you're going to return 50 or 100 times X on my money. How are you going to take this company to a valuation of hundreds of millions of dollars and do it in a reasonable way. And look, if it's not reasonable, if you can't do that, then that's okay. That may not be you may not be the right company for us. But I would just remind everyone that with angel investing, at least 9 out of 10 deals don't work out for the investors, and as a result, the 1 out of 10, or more typically 1 out of 20 that do work out, have to be home runs in order for the investors to make money on their portfolio as a whole. So angel investors are looking for big opportunities, companies that can go from this $5 million valuation to a $200 million valuation. Not immediately, not overnight, but over a 5 to 10 year horizon. So that's what we're looking for. That's the overarching kind of question, and then certainly there are a lot of steps to get there, and we want to see logical progression from today to that point. But it should ultimately be convincing that that you can get, that the company has the potential, the market's big enough, you have the right people and the right product or service to get there over time.
Okay. Well, that's amazing. Last question, and I know I said the last one before, but this came off the top. What's your most memorable investment and why?
You know, I for some reason I always think that the last deal I closed was the best one ever. I don't know why. I keep thinking the deals keep getting better. The one we just closed last week is called Wanderu, Wanderu, and it's the best way to describe it is sort of the kayak for ground transportation, for bus and train transportation. So you know, you go on Kayak or Expedia to book flights on airlines. Well, with Wanderu, you go on their platform to book bus travel or train travel. And a lot of people don't realize, but more bus trips are taken in this country each year than airplane trips. It's very, very popular, and there's a very desirable demographic, the millennials, who use buses quite a bit. And Wanderu is the only platform where you can go and they're integrated with every major and many, many minor bus companies, and now they're starting to be integrated with a lot of train companies. And you can book bus tickets from almost anywhere to almost anywhere on a variety of different bus lines. And they're the only ones doing it. They're growing rapidly as a great team, and I just see it as it's going to be a huge success. They're already at, you know, $1 million per month in gross revenue, growing quickly, and there's just huge opportunity there. So that's the kind of thing, the kind of deal that I like, and it was the last deal we closed, and so I'm in love with it.
Awesome. Well, hey, Phil, thank you so much for this interview, and both you and Barbara, thank you for helping make dreams come alive. Many of our viewers are entrepreneurs, and they are looking to, you know, work with people like you guys for their dream investment, and we'll make sure to forward interested inquiries to your AngelList page. Is that the best way?
Great. Yeah, I hope so. And you can always message me through AngelList if you have something to pitch, or LinkedIn. Or you know, you have my direct email,
yes.
So you can forward things on to me. I'm always happy to speak with entrepreneurs and founders and give you my feedback, and hopefully I'll be interested in your deal.
Awesome.